Hi, everyone. Before we get into this audiobook, I'd really appreciate it if you could hit the subscribe button and drop a like. It helps me out a lot as well as contributes a lot to the channel. Now let's get into the story. I hope you enjoy. The chill of the autumn wind bit at my exposed skin, mirroring the icy grip around my heart. The air, usually crisp with the promise of changing leaves, felt heavy, suffocating, as if the very atmosphere knew the earth-shattering news I had just received. My name is Lyra, and I stood on the precipice of a life irrevocably altered, a life no longer my own, yet one I was fiercely determined to protect. Just moments ago, the bond had snapped, a visceral tear that echoed through my soul, severing the illusory connection I'd once shared. It wasn't just a break, it was an implosion, a shattering of a fragile world built on sand. My hand instinctively went to my belly, a gentle, protective gesture. Beneath the soft fabric of my dress, a new life stirred, a tiny flutter that was both a miracle and a condemnation. I was carrying someone else's child, a truth that felt like a scarlet letter branded upon my soul. It was a child conceived in stolen moments, in hushed whispers and forbidden touches, a testament to a love I had foolishly believed in, a love that had now revealed itself as a cruel, calculated betrayal. My heart ached with a dull, persistent throb, a phantom limb pain for a future that would never be. The father, Rhys, a beta from a neighboring pack, had promised forever, whispered sweet nothings under the pale moonlight, only to vanish like smoke, leaving me with this precious, terrifying consequence. The betrayal wasn't just his absence. It was the cold, hard realization that his affection had been a facade, a means to an end, a weapon wielded against his own pack's laws and, by extension, against me. But the snapping of my bond, a phenomenon that usually spelled loneliness for a lone wolf, brought with it an unexpected, terrifying twist. The alpha of the Moonstone Pack, Kael, a force of nature, renowned for his raw power and unyielding will, had chosen me. Not just chosen, but claimed. The moment the bond shattered, a different, far more potent energy had surged through me, a primal recognition, an undeniable pull towards a man I barely knew, a man whose reputation preceded him like a storm. Front. He wanted me, child and all. The sheer audacity of it, the blatant disregard for custom, for scandal, for my complicated reality, was both terrifying and strangely compelling. I could feel his presence now, a powerful hum beneath the earth, a thrumming in the air itself, signaling his imminent arrival. He was near, drawn by the invisible threads of destiny, by a claim I hadn't sought, didn't understand, and certainly didn't feel ready for. My past, a tangled mess of broken promises and unspoken regrets, collided head-on with a future I had never envisioned. A future tied to the most formidable male in the region. And in the midst of this maelstrom was my child, an innocent life caught between two worlds, between the ghost of a forbidden love and the undeniable pull of an alpha's claim. My instincts screamed to protect this fragile life, to shield it from the complexities of my own heart, from the harsh realities of pack law, and from the powerful male who now claimed me as his own. The choice was not just between past and future, but between survival and subjugation, between the fleeting comfort of a forgotten love and the terrifying promise of an alpha's absolute devotion. The ground beneath my feet vibrated with a low, resonant thrum, a silent herald of Kael's approach. It wasn't just a sound, it was a primal energy that seemed to settle deep in my bones, a thrumming chord in the symphony of the forest. The air grew colder, charged with a magnetic force that tugged at my very being, drawing me inexorably towards him. Every instinct screamed at me to flee, to disappear into the dense woods and become one with the shadows, to protect the fragile secret blooming within me. But another, deeper instinct, one I hadn't known existed until this moment, rooted me to the spot. It was a strange dichotomy, this push and pull, a dance between self-preservation and an inexplicable, undeniable allure. Then, he emerged from the tree line. Kael was a living embodiment of raw power and untamed masculinity. His form, even in human guise, was imposing, sculpted from years of leading, of fighting, of simply existing as the apex predator of his territory. His dark hair, the color of a raven's wing, was windswept, a few strands falling across a rugged brow. His eyes, the startling hue of molten gold, were the first thing that truly captured me. They held an ancient wisdom, a predatory gleam, and yet, surprisingly, a flicker of something else, something I couldn't quite decipher, a vulnerability that contradicted his formidable exterior. His jaw was set, a testament to unyielding resolve, and a faint scar traced a path across his left cheekbone, a badge of countless battles fought and won. He wore simple, dark clothing, a testament to his practical nature, but they couldn't conceal the powerful musculature beneath. He exuded an aura of authority, an almost palpable weight of command that made the very air around him crackle. He stopped a few yards from me, his golden eyes sweeping over my form, a silent, intense appraisal that made my skin prickle. It wasn't a gaze of judgment, but of recognition, a deep, unsettling understanding that burrowed into the most hidden corners of my soul. I felt exposed, laid bare, as if he could see not just the life stirring within me, but the shattered pieces of my heart, the lingering ache of betrayal. The wind whipped strands of my auburn hair across my face, but I didn't reach up to push them away. My hands remained clasped protectively over my abdomen, a silent shield against the intensity of his gaze. The silence stretched between us, thick and heavy, punctuated only by the rustling leaves and the distant calls of unseen birds. It was a silence filled with unspoken questions, with the weight of destiny, and with the undeniable pull that now tethered us. I could feel the invisible threads tightening, binding me to him in a way I had never experienced, not even with Rhys. This was different, primal, an ancient recognition that resonated with the very core of my being. Finally, Kael spoke, his voice a low rumble, deep and resonant, like the earth itself. It carried the weight of authority, yet there was an unexpected softness beneath the gravelly tone, a hint of something protective. "Lyra," he simply stated, his voice a possessive caress, as if my name itself was a sacred thing, belonging only to him. He didn't ask, he declared. "The bond has formed. You are mine." My breath hitched. The words, simple yet profound, seemed to solidify the terrifying reality. There was no denying it, no arguing against the primal truth that now flowed through my veins. Yet, the starkness of his claim, the absolute certainty in his voice, ignited a spark of defiance within me. I was not a possession, not a prize to be claimed. I was Lyra, a woman with a past, with a secret, and with a life growing inside her that belonged to another. "I am not a thing to be claimed," I managed to say, my voice trembling slightly despite my best efforts to project strength. My chin lifted, a gesture of defiance against the overwhelming power of his presence. "And I am carrying another's child." The words hung in the air, a stark, unwelcome truth, a challenge thrown into the face of his absolute authority. I watched his golden eyes, searching for a flicker of disgust, of rejection, anything to validate my fears, to provide an escape. The Kael's expression remained unreadable. He took a slow, deliberate step closer, then another, until he stood directly before me, his towering presence engulfing me, eclipsing the world around us. The scent of him, raw earth, pine, and something uniquely masculine, filled my senses, a heady, intoxicating aroma that threatened to overwhelm me. My heart hammered against my ribs, a frantic drumbeat against the stillness that now enveloped us. He reached out, his large hand moving with a surprising gentleness, coming to rest on my cheek. His thumb brushed lightly over my skin, sending a jolt through me, a spark that ignited an unexpected warmth in my veins. His golden eyes, now impossibly close, held mine, unwavering, intense. "I know," he rumbled, his voice even lower now, a mere whisper that resonated deep within me. "I know about the child, Lyra, and it changes nothing. You are my fated mate, the moon goddess has spoken. And what the moon goddess wills, no man, no past, no secret can undo." His gaze dropped to my belly, and for a fleeting moment I saw it, a profound tenderness, a protective instinct that startled me. "The child is a part of you, and you are a part of me. You both are mine now." His words, delivered with such unwavering conviction, stole the air from my lungs. He didn't care. He truly didn't care about the scandal, the betrayal, the child of another. He simply accepted it, absorbed it into the vast, unyielding landscape of his claim. It was an overwhelming realization, terrifying in its possessiveness, yet, impossibly, a flicker of something else, something akin to relief, sparked within me. He saw my truth, acknowledged it, and still claimed me. The world tilted on its axis, and I knew, with a chilling certainty, that my life, and the life within me, had just entered a territory far more complex, far more dangerous, and undeniably, far more compelling than I could have ever imagined. The Alpha had chosen me, and now my fight to protect my child had taken on a new, formidable dimension. The journey to the Moonstone Pack's territory felt like traversing a threshold into an entirely new dimension. Kael didn't rush, his pace deliberate, almost meditative, as if he were allowing me time to acclimate, to breathe in the sense of his land, to feel the pulse of his pack. The woods deepened around us, the trees taller, older, their branches intertwined like gnarled fingers reaching for the sky. The air grew crisper, carrying the sharp, invigorating scent of pine and damp earth, a scent that already felt inextricably linked to Kael himself. He walked beside me, his presence a constant, comforting weight at my side. He didn't touch me, not in a possessive way, but his proximity was a palpable force, a silent affirmation of his claim. I stole glances at him, still trying to reconcile the formidable Alpha with the unexpected tenderness I had witnessed in his eyes. He was a paradox, a storm and a calm sea, and I found myself drawn to the enigma he presented, even as my fear gnawed at me. As we moved deeper into his territory, the subtle signs of pack life began to emerge. The faint scent of other wolves, a harmonious blend of various individual smells, drifted on the wind. I heard the distant echoes of playful barks, the rustling of unseen bodies through the undergrowth, the gentle hum of a thriving community. It was a stark contrast to the small, isolated life I had led, a life always on the fringes, always a little apart. The Moonstone Pack's main compound unfolded before us as we crested a rise, nestled in a wide, verdant valley, surrounded by ancient, towering pines. It was not merely a collection of houses, but a village, sprawling and vibrant, built with a harmonious blend of stone and timber, reflecting the pack's deep connection to the land. Smoke curled lazily from stone chimneys, and the laughter of children drifted on the breeze, a heartwarming sound that tugged at my maternal instincts. My hand instinctively went to my belly again, a silent prayer for the acceptance of the life I carried. Kael led me directly towards the largest structure, a grand lodge crafted from dark, rough-hewn timber and massive river stones, its imposing presence tempered by the warmth of lantern light glowing from within. This was the Alpha's den, the heart of the Moonstone Pack. My anxiety spiked, a cold wave washing over me. This was it, the moment I would face his pack, face their judgment, and reveal the truth that clung to me like a shadow. As we approached, the lodge doors swung open, and a crowd of wolves emerged, their faces a mixture of curiosity, anticipation, and a healthy dose of apprehension. They were a diverse group, young and old, their eyes a myriad of colors, all fixed on me, the stranger at their alpha's side. The silence that fell over them was profound, broken only by the crackle of a distant fire. I felt every single gaze, every subtle shift in their energy, 100 silent questions swirling around me. Among them, a woman stepped forward, her silver hair pulled back in a severe bun, her eyes a sharp, intelligent gray. She was older, her face etched with lines of wisdom and authority, and she exuded an air of quiet power, a sense of having seen and endured much. This was Anya, Kael's beta, his second in command, a formidable presence in her own right. Her gaze, however, held no hostility, only a piercing, analytical scrutiny that seemed to see right through me. Kael stopped before Anya, his hand coming to rest lightly on the small of my back, a subtle, possessive gesture that both claimed me and offered a silent reassurance. "Pack," he announced, his voice carrying effortlessly, resonating with a quiet authority that commanded immediate attention. "This is Lyra. She is my fated mate. The moon goddess has blessed us." A collective gasp rippled through the crowd, followed by a murmur of hushed whispers. Fated mate. The words carried immense weight in their culture, a divine decree, an undeniable truth, but the murmurs were tinged with a distinct undertone of surprise, of confusion, undoubtedly fueled by my obvious state. I felt my cheeks flush, a wave of self-consciousness washing over me. Anya's gaze, sharp and unwavering, dropped to my belly, and a flicker of understanding, quickly masked, crossed her features. She said nothing, her expression remaining neutral, but I could feel the silent questions radiating from her, from the entire pack. Kael, sensing the unspoken tension, tightened his hand on my back, a subtle show of support. He then looked directly at his pack, his golden eyes sweeping over each face, a silent challenge in their depths. "I understand there are questions," he stated, his voice firm, leaving no room for dissent. "And they will be answered. But let it be known now, without reservation or doubt, that Lyra is under my protection. She is a part of this pack, and anyone who questions her place, questions me. Is that understood?" The question hung in the air, a silent challenge, but demand for absolute loyalty. A beat of tense silence, then a chorus of, "Yes, Alpha," resonated through the crowd, their voices tinged with a mixture of respect and a touch of fear. It was a powerful display of his authority, a stark reminder of the absolute power he wielded. Kael then turned to me, his golden eyes softening, a hint of something akin to warmth flickering within their depths. "Come, Lyra," he rumbled, his voice a possessive caress. "Let's get you settled." He led me into the lodge, leaving the murmuring pack behind, their questions still lingering in the air like unanswered prayers. As I stepped over the threshold, I felt a strange mixture of trepidation and a nascent sense of belonging. I was the Alpha's mate, carrying another's child, stepping into a life I had never imagined. The journey had just begun, and the greatest challenge, that of earning the acceptance of a pack and reconciling my past with this formidable present, lay ahead. My new reality was a whirlwind of contrasts. The stark beauty of the Moonstone Pack's territory against the unsettling undercurrent of suspicion I felt from some pack members, the undeniable, comforting presence of Kael against the nagging doubts about my own worthiness. The lodge, vast and echoing, felt like a living entity, its timber walls imbued with the warmth of countless lives lived within its embrace. My allocated room, while spacious and comfortable, initially felt like a cage, a gilded prison for my complicated truth. Kael, true to his word, had been nothing short of unwavering in his support. He spent his evenings with me, not pressing, not demanding, but simply being present. He would sit by the crackling fireplace, his imposing form softened by the dancing flames, and speak of pack history, of their traditions, of the responsibilities of an alpha. He never once questioned my past, never pressed me about Rhys, never hinted at my secret being a burden. His acceptance was absolute, a quiet, unwavering pillar of strength that both comforted and disarmed me. He treated me with a quiet deference, a respect that bordered on reverence, a stark contrast to the fleeting, manipulative affections of my past. Anya, Kael's beta, remained a formidable, enigmatic figure. Her initial scrutiny had softened, replaced by a vigilant observation. She watched me constantly, her keen gray eyes missing nothing, but her actions were always supportive. She oversaw my comfort, ensured I had everything I needed, and answered my tentative questions about pack life with a directness that I found surprisingly refreshing. She never pried, never offered false sympathies, but her presence was a silent affirmation that I was indeed under the Alpha's protection. I sensed in her a profound loyalty to Kael, a devotion that transcended mere rank, born of years of shared burdens and battles. The pack, however, was a different story. While no one dared openly challenge Kael's decree, the whispers were omnipresent. I felt their gazes follow me, their curiosity a tangible weight. Some averted their eyes quickly when I met their gaze. Others held my stare with a mixture of suspicion and pity. The older she-wolves, the matriarchs of the pack, often watched me with an almost mournful sympathy, their knowing glances conveying a silent understanding of my plight. The younger, unmated males, however, regarded me with a wary respect, acknowledging Kael's claim, but their expressions often held a flicker of curiosity, an unspoken question about the Alpha's unconventional choice. The unmated females, particularly those who might have harbored hopes of bonding with Kael, regarded me with a thinly veiled resentment, their disdain a sharp, painful contrast to the Alpha's unwavering acceptance. One evening, unable to bear the weight of their silent judgment, I sought out Anya. She was in the pack's communal kitchen, overseeing the preparation of the evening meal, her silver hair catching the firelight. The aroma of rich stew and freshly baked bread filled the air, a comforting, homely scent that momentarily eased my anxieties. "Anya," I began, my voice tentative. "They talk about me, don't they?" She paused, her hands still kneading dough, but her gaze met mine, direct and unflinching. "They do," she admitted, her voice calm, devoid of judgment. "It is natural. The Alpha choosing a mate is a momentous occasion, and your circumstances are unique. Unique, I echoed, a bitter laugh escaping my lips. I am carrying another's child, Anya. A child conceived outside of Pack law, a child of betrayal. How can they accept that? How can he accept that? My voice cracked with the raw emotion, the vulnerability I had tried so hard to suppress. Anya finally stopped kneading, her hands resting on the counter. She turned fully to face me, her gray eyes holding a deep, ancient wisdom. Kael is alpha for a reason, Lyra, she said, her voice soft yet firm. He sees beyond the surface. He feels the truth of the bond. The moon goddess chooses fates, not perfect pasts. He feels the connection, the undeniable pull, and for him, that is all that matters. He does not see betrayal, he sees a life, a future that is now irrevocably intertwined with his. She paused, then continued, her voice gaining a quiet intensity. As for the Pack, acceptance takes time. Trust is earned, not given. Their murmurs are not necessarily malicious, but born of fear, of uncertainty. They are afraid of what this means for their alpha, for their future. You are new, unknown, and your circumstances defy their traditions. It is a challenge to their understanding of the world, but Kael's loyalty to you is absolute, and in time they will see that. They will see his conviction, and they will follow. You just need to show them who you are, beyond the circumstances. Her words were a balm to my raw nerves, a glimmer of hope in the oppressive darkness. And the child, I whispered, my hand instinctively going to my belly. What about the child? Anya's gaze softened, a rare, gentle expression crossing her features. The child, she said, her voice imbued with a profound respect for life, is innocent. It is Kael's choice to accept it, and he has made that choice. This child will be raised as a moonstone, under the Alpha's protection, loved, cherished. It will be born into a home. That is what matters. Her unwavering belief, her quiet strength, resonated deeply within me. It wasn't just Kael's acceptance that mattered, but the potential for acceptance from a woman like Anya, a pillar of this pack. Her words were a subtle shift in perspective, a reminder that while my past was complex, the future was not yet written. Later that evening, as I lay in the vast, unfamiliar bed, the soft glow of the moon filtering through the window, I felt a faint kick in my belly, a small, reassuring flutter, a reminder of the life I carried, a life that was now caught between two worlds, two fathers, two destinies. Kael's scent, subtle and comforting, filled the room, a warm embrace in the darkness. I thought of Anya's words, of Kael's unwavering acceptance, of the path ahead. It would be a journey fraught with challenges, with suspicion, with the lingering shadows of my past. But for the first time, a fragile seed of hope began to take root within me. I was not alone. The Alpha had chosen me, and with him came a chance, however slim, to build a future for my child. A future where love and acceptance might, against all odds, find a home. My true test, the unveiling of my character beyond my circumstances, had just begun. Days bled into weeks, each one a delicate dance between settling into pack life and navigating the subtle currents of suspicion that still permeated the air. My pregnancy progressed, a tangible, undeniable truth that blossomed with each passing day. My belly grew rounder, a constant, visible reminder of my complicated past, but also a profound connection to the future I was building, however uncertain. Kael remained a steadfast presence, his unwavering support a silent shield against the lingering doubts of the pack. He would often join me for walks through the sprawling Moonstone territory, his powerful stride effortlessly matching my increasingly careful steps. He pointed out ancient trees, explained the subtle shifts in the forest's energy, and spoke of the pack's deep reverence for the land. His stories were rich with history, with traditions, with the wisdom passed down through generations of alphas. He never imposed, never lectured, but simply shared, allowing me to absorb the essence of his world at my own pace. In these quiet moments, away from the eyes of the pack, I found myself drawn to his quiet strength, his profound connection to his people and his land. The raw power I had first sensed in him was tempered by a deep sense of responsibility, a paternal instinct that surprisingly extended to me, and, by extension, to the child I carried. My relationship with Anya deepened. She was a woman of few words, but her actions spoke volumes. She became my confidant, a silent guardian in the bustling lodge. She introduced me to the pack's healers, ensured I received the best care, and guided me through the intricacies of pack customs. She didn't offer unsolicited advice, but when I sought her counsel, her words were always direct, honest, and laced with a quiet wisdom. She taught me about the pack's history, their customs, and the delicate balance of power that Kael maintained. I learned of her own past, of the sacrifices she had made for the pack, of the unwavering loyalty she held for Kael, a bond forged in countless shared challenges. Her initial scrutiny had transformed into a wary respect, and gradually into a quiet acceptance that felt more profound than any overt display of affection. Still, the whispers persisted. They were softer now, less frequent, but I felt them, like an invisible hum beneath the surface of daily life. The curiosity about my past, about the unknown father of my child, remained a potent undercurrent. Some of the younger females, particularly those who had once vied for Kael's attention, continued to regard me with veiled resentment, their envious glances sharp and cutting. It was a subtle, psychological warfare, a constant reminder that I was still an outsider, a mystery that defied their carefully constructed world. One afternoon, while I was helping Anya sort herbs in the pack's infirmary, a sharp-tongued younger female, Lena, approached. Lena was known for her quick wit and even quicker temper, a firebrand whose ambition was barely concealed. She regarded me with an almost hostile curiosity, her hands on her hips, her eyes narrowed. "So, the alpha's mate," Lena began, her voice dripping with thinly veiled sarcasm. "Living a life of luxury, while the rest of us work, it must be nice, being chosen without earning it." Her gaze flickered to my belly, a pointed, cruel reminder of my vulnerable state. And to think, carrying another's baggage. My breath hitched. The words stung, a direct hit to the raw nerves of my insecurity. My hands clenched, and for a fleeting moment, a spark of my own forgotten fire ignited within me. But I remembered Kael's unwavering acceptance, Anya's quiet counsel, and the delicate life stirring within me. I would not allow her words to define me. Anya, sensing the escalating tension, stepped forward, her voice calm, but with an unmistakable edge of authority. "Lena," she warned, her gray eyes hardening, "mind your tongue. Lyra is the Alpha's chosen. Her place here is not for you to question." Lena, however, was undeterred. "But what of tradition, Anya? What of loyalty? The Alpha claims a mate, yet she brings a child not of his blood. How does that uphold the pack's honor? How does that set an example?" Her voice rose, attracting the attention of others in the infirmary, their silent gazes now fixed on us. The weight of their scrutiny, the accusation in Lena's voice, pressed down on me. I felt the familiar burn of shame, the instinct to retreat, to hide. But then, a thought, clear and sharp, cut through the noise. This wasn't just about me. It was about my child, about its future, about breaking the cycle of judgment that had plagued my life. I stepped forward, meeting Lena's hostile gaze with a newfound strength. "You speak of tradition and honor, Lena," I said, my voice steady, though my heart pounded in my chest. "But what of compassion? What of acceptance? This child," I placed my hand firmly on my belly, "is innocent. It is a life, not a burden. And its circumstances are not of its choosing. If the Moonstone Pack prides itself, then surely true strength lies not in adherence to rigid rules, but in the ability to embrace what is unexpected, to protect the vulnerable." My words, spoken with a quiet conviction, seemed to surprise Lena. Her defiance wavered, and her gaze, for the first time, shifted from hostility to a flicker of uncertainty. The other pack members who had gathered, their expressions previously a mixture of curiosity and judgment, now held a newfound thoughtfulness. Anya, standing beside me, placed a comforting hand on my shoulder, a subtle gesture of support. "Lyra speaks the truth, Lena," Anya stated, her voice resonating with quiet authority. "Our strength comes not just from our alpha, but from our unity, from our willingness to adapt, to grow. This child will be a moonstone, and its well-being is the responsibility of this entire pack. Do you disagree?" Lena, cornered by Anya's unwavering gaze and the subtle shift in the pack's collective attention, mumbled something inaudible, her gaze dropping to the floor. She had lost her audience and her argument. She turned abruptly and strode away, her defeat palpable. A quiet murmur of approval rippled through the infirmary. A few of the older she-wolves offered me soft, encouraging smiles. The tension in the air dissipated, replaced by a sense of calm. I had faced my accuser, not with aggression, but with quiet conviction, and I had, perhaps, earned a small measure of their respect. Later that evening, Kael found me sitting by the fireplace, a subtle smile playing on his lips. "I heard what happened," he rumbled, his golden eyes filled with a quiet pride. "You handled her well, Lyra. Better than I would have. You showed them true alpha strength, not just power." His words warmed me from the inside out, a profound comfort after the emotional confrontation. I realized then that my journey in the Moonstone Pack wasn't just about being accepted as Kael's mate, but about forging my own path, about proving my worth, not with defiance, but with quiet resilience, unwavering conviction. My child, growing stronger within me, was not a burden, but a catalyst, forcing me to confront my fears, to find my voice, to truly become the woman I was meant to be. The whispers might continue, but my resolve had solidified. I would protect my child, and I would fight for my place, not just for myself, but for the silent life that relied on my strength. The forest became my sanctuary. As my pregnancy advanced, the lodge, with its constant hum of pack life and the lingering echoes of unspoken judgments, sometimes felt suffocating. The cool, quiet solitude of the ancient woods, however, offered a balm to my soul. I spent hours wandering the familiar paths, my footsteps deliberately slow, allowing me to fully absorb the rich scents of damp earth and pine, to listen to the whisper of the wind through the leaves, to feel the profound, grounding presence of nature. Kael, sensing my need for space, for this particular solace, often joined me. He would walk a respectful distance behind, a silent, powerful shadow, allowing me the illusion of solitude while still providing his comforting presence. We rarely spoke during these walks, our communication often unspoken, a comfortable silence that transcended words. Sometimes he would simply sit beside me on a moss-covered log, his hand resting lightly on the small of my back, a quiet, possessive touch that was now more comforting than intimidating. In these moments, I felt a deep connection to him, a bond that went beyond the fated mate pull, a genuine understanding that was slowly, painstakingly beginning to blossom. My belly grew rounder, a testament to the thriving life within me. The movements of my child became more pronounced, more frequent, small flutters evolving into playful kicks, miniature somersaults that filled me with a profound joy, a fierce protectiveness. I would often rest my hands on my swollen abdomen, feeling the intricate dance of life within, and sometimes Kael would gently place his own large hand over mine, his eyes softening as he felt the movements, a silent acknowledgement of the future we were slowly, painstakingly building together. He never expressed regret, never hinted at disappointment, his acceptance of my child absolute, unwavering. This quiet, unconditional acceptance was a powerful antidote to the lingering shadows of Rhys's betrayal. Anya continued to be my steadfast ally. She took it upon herself to teach me about the traditions surrounding pregnancy and birth in the Moonstone Pack. She introduced me to the older she-wolves who served as midwives, their faces kind, their hands gentle, their eyes holding a wisdom born of countless births. They shared ancient remedies, told comforting stories of past generations, and helped me prepare for the inevitable journey into motherhood. Through them, I began to feel a sense of belonging, a connection to the long line of women who had brought life into this pack. Their acceptance, earned through my quiet perseverance and my growing understanding of pack life, felt more authentic, more earned than any initial decree. Despite these comforts, the underlying tension within the pack remained. While open hostility like Lena's had diminished, the occasional cold glance, the subtle avoidance, the hushed whispers that ceased abruptly when I entered a room, were constant reminders of my precarious position. I was the alpha's chosen, but I was also the one who carried a child not of his blood, a truth that defied their deepest held traditions. It was a silent war of acceptance, one I was determined to win, not just for myself, but for the innocent life I nurtured. One afternoon, during a particularly vigorous set of kicks, a sharp pain shot through my lower back, followed by a dizzying wave of nausea. I clutched at a nearby tree, my breath catching in my throat. The pain subsided quickly, but a deep unease settled over me. It wasn't the usual pregnancy aches, but something sharper, more unsettling. Kael, who had been a few paces ahead, instantly sensed my distress. He turned, his golden eyes narrowing, his powerful form tensing. "Lyra, what's wrong?" he rumbled, his voice laced with concern, and in a few swift strides he was by my side, his hand on my arm, steadying me. "Just a sharp pain," I managed to say, leaning against the rough bark of the tree, trying to catch my breath. "And a little dizzy." His hand moved from my arm to my forehead, his touch cool and reassuring. "You're pale," he murmured, his gaze sweeping over me with a possessive concern. "We need to get you back to the lodge, to Anya and the healers." As if on cue, a sudden, piercing howl echoed through the forest, a distress call, raw and urgent. It wasn't from a pack member, but from beyond their territory. Kael's body stiffened, his golden eyes flickering towards the direction of the sound. The scent of fear, mingled with the faint, unfamiliar scent of a rogue wolf carried on the wind. "Rogue," he growled, his voice a low rumble, his protective instincts surging to the forefront. "And in distress, likely wounded." I looked at him, my heart hammering. My instincts screamed for him to go, to protect his pack, to answer the call. But my fragile state, the subtle pains, held me back, a selfish plea for his continued presence. Kael's gaze met mine, a silent struggle playing out in their depths. His loyalty to his pack, to his territory, was absolute, but his bond to me, his fated mate, was equally powerful. He was torn, caught between his duty as alpha and his fierce protectiveness over me. Then, the howl came again, closer this time, laced with a desperate urgency. And with it, a new scent, subtle but unmistakable, carried on the wind. A scent that made my blood run cold. A scent I knew intimately. A scent I had foolishly believed I would never encounter again. Rhys. My breath hitched. My eyes widened in disbelief, then horror. The father of my child. Here, in Kael's territory. And wounded. The very past I had tried to escape, the betrayal I had tried to bury, had just arrived, howling its way back into my carefully constructed present. Kael, his senses far more acute than mine, registered the subtle shift in my demeanor, the sudden tension that gripped me. His golden eyes, sharp and discerning, swept over my face, then flickered towards the distant howl, picking up the faint, specific nuances of the rogue's scent. His jaw tightened, and a low growl rumbled deep in his chest. "Rhys," he articulated, his voice a low, dangerous whisper, imbued with a chilling recognition. The name, spoken by Kael, felt like a thunderclap, shattering the fragile peace I had found. The Alpha had not just chosen me, he was now confronted with the living ghost of my past, a past that threatened to unravel everything he had worked so hard to protect. My journey had just taken an unexpected, terrifying turn. The whispers would surely turn into shouts, and the delicate balance of my new life was about to be tested in the most brutal way imaginable. Kael's voice, a low, dangerous growl, sent a shiver down my spine. The single word, Rhys, hung in the air like a poisonous cloud, tainting the crisp forest scent. His golden eyes, usually so warm when they regarded me, now held a cold, predatory gleam, reflecting the primal fury of an alpha whose territory and mate were being threatened. The raw power emanating from him was almost suffocating, an elemental force held barely in check. My heart hammered against my ribs, a frantic drumbeat against the silence that enveloped us. I instinctively took a step back, my hand pressed firmly against my swelling belly, a desperate attempt to shield my child from the impending storm. The pain in my back intensified, a sharp, twisting agony that mirrored the turmoil in my soul. My past, embodied by Rhys's unexpected and deeply unwelcome return, was crashing head-on with my tenuous present, threatening to shatter the fragile peace I had begun to build. "He's in distress, Kael," I managed to say, my voice a strained whisper, despite the part of me that wanted him to ignore the call, to pretend this never happened. Wounded. The pragmatic part of me knew that leaving a wounded rogue in the territory was a risk, but the emotional part simply feared the confrontation, the inevitable unraveling of my secret in the most public, painful way possible. Kael's jaw clenched, a muscle twitching in his cheek. He was torn, his duty as alpha pulling him in one direction, his possessive instincts as a mate in another. The howl came again, closer this time, a pained, desperate cry that spoke of true agony. "Anya!" Kael's voice boomed, carrying effortlessly through the trees, a command that would instantly be heard by his pack. "Assemble a small patrol. Meet me at the eastern ridge. We have an injured rogue within our borders." He didn't wait for a response, already turning, his gaze sweeping the forest with a keen, assessing intensity. He then turned back to me, his golden eyes softening slightly, but the underlying steel remained. "You are not well, Lyra. You will return to the lodge. Anya and the healers will see to you." His voice left no room for argument, a firm command laced with an undeniable concern. "Kael, no!" I protested, my voice raw with desperation. "I need to. I should." My words trailed off, unsure of what I truly needed to do, caught between the desire to flee and the terrifying pull of the inevitable. He reached out, his large hands gently cupping my face. His thumbs brushed over my cheekbones, his touch surprisingly soothing despite the turmoil in his eyes. "You need to rest, to protect our child," he corrected, his voice firm, his gaze dropping to my belly, a silent acknowledgement of the life within. "This is my duty, Lyra, to protect my pack, my territory, and now to protect you, and what is ours." His eyes met mine, intense and unwavering. "Stay safe. I will return." With a final, lingering look, he shifted. In a fluid, instantaneous transformation, his human form blurred, replaced by a magnificent, powerful wolf. He was massive, his fur the color of burnished gold, his eyes glowing with an incandescent light. He was pure predator, raw power contained within a graceful form. He let out a deep, resonant howl, a command to his emerging patrol, then turned and vanished into the dense undergrowth, a golden blur swallowed by the deepening twilight. I stood there, trembling, the scent of Rhys's blood and fear, mingled with the lingering, powerful scent of Kael, filling my senses. The pain in my back intensified, a searing fire that made me gasp. I slowly made my way back to the lodge, each step a struggle, my mind a chaotic whirlwind of emotions. The lodge was a flurry of activity. Anya, her face grim but composed, was assembling a small, elite patrol, their eyes holding a steely resolve. They moved with a quiet efficiency, their gear already prepared, their focus absolute. When Anya saw me, her sharp gaze instantly registered my distress. "Lyra!" she exclaimed, her voice laced with concern. She rushed to my side, her strong arm supporting me. "You're swaying. What happened?" "Rhys," I managed to gasp, the word a choked whisper. "Kael, he went after him. He's wounded." Anya's eyes widened, a flicker of surprise, then a deep, troubled understanding crossing her features. She said nothing, but her grip on my arm tightened, a silent acknowledgement of the storm that was gathering. She led me to the infirmary, where the pack healers, their faces etched with concern, quickly set about examining me. The pain intensified, sharp, sporadic spasms that took my breath away. The healers, their hands gentle, but their expressions grave, exchanged hushed words. I heard snippets, too soon, stress, possible complications. My fear for Rhys was momentarily overshadowed by a primal terror for my child. Hours passed, a blur of agony and anxiety. The pack remained on edge, their senses extended, awaiting news from Kael and his patrol. The air was thick with unspoken tension, the fear of the unknown, and the pervasive scent of distress. Finally, just as the first faint streaks of dawn painted the sky, a triumphant howl echoed through the valley. It was Kael's howl, powerful and clear, signaling his return. A collective sigh of relief rippled through the lodge. But then, a low murmur rose among the pack members gathered at the windows. I heard whispers. "He's carrying him. The rogue. It's Rhys." My heart leaped into my throat. Kael was bringing Rhys back. The confrontation I had dreaded, the moment the truth would be laid bare for all to see, was upon me. Anya, who had been by my side throughout my ordeal, straightened, her face grim. "He's here, Lyra," she said, her voice soft but firm. "Both of them! You need to be strong." I nodded, clutching the healer's hand, a fierce resolve hardening my gaze. I would be strong. For my child. For my future. But as Kael entered the lodge, his golden fur matted with blood, a wounded Rhys slung over his powerful shoulders, the sheer weight of their presence, the stark reality of my past colliding with my present, hit me with a force that stole the breath from my lungs. Every eye in the room was on me, on them, on the impossible triangle that had just formed. The whispers would now turn into shouts, and the battle for my child's future, and my own, had truly begun. The air in the Alpha's lodge crackled with an almost unbearable tension. Kael, magnificent even with his blood-matted fur, shifted back into his human form, his golden eyes scanning the room, acknowledging the silent questions, the collective shock of his pack. Rhys, still unconscious, lay limp in Kael's arms, his own fur a dull gray, now marred by a deep, ragged wound across his flank. The scent of his blood, fresh and metallic, mingled with the lingering, powerful scent of Kael, creating a visceral tableau of raw reality. Kael gently laid Rhys on a makeshift cot in the infirmary section of the lodge, his movements careful, almost tender, a silent testament to his alpha duties, even towards a rogue. The pack healers immediately swarmed around Rhys, their faces grim but efficient, their hands moving with practiced urgency to staunch the flow of blood and assess the wound. My gaze was fixed on Rhys's unconscious form, a maelstrom of emotions swirling within me. Shock, a strange surge of protective instinct despite his betrayal, and an overwhelming dread of the impending revelation. My own body ached, the sharp pains from earlier now a dull throb, a constant reminder of the fragile life I carried. Kael turned from Rhys, his golden eyes sweeping over the assembled pack, then finally settling on me. His expression was unreadable, a mask of controlled power, but I felt the intensity of his gaze. A silent question, a demand for answers that now resonated between us. The pack, however, was not silent. Whispers erupted, louder now, fueled by the undeniable presence of the rogue. "It's Rhys," I heard one voice murmur, laced with shock. "From the neighboring pack, the one who disappeared." Another voice, colder, more accusatory, pierced through the din. "The one Lyra was bonded to, before the Alpha claimed her." The words, though hushed, felt like thunderclaps, reverberating through the lodge, each one a hammer blow to my already fragile composure. A young male, emboldened by the collective surprise, stepped forward, his face flushed with indignation. "Alpha," he began, his voice trembling slightly, but his gaze defiant. "This is an insult. Bringing a rogue, a male from another pack, into our lodge, especially one who was with your mate." Kael's eyes, a molten gold, snapped to the young male. The raw power emanating from him intensified, radiating in waves that caused the air to shimmer. The young male visibly quailed, taking an involuntary step back, but he held his ground, his defiance still simmering. "He is wounded," Kael's voice boomed, cutting through the whispers like a sharp blade. "And he is on our territory. As Alpha, it is my duty to ensure the safety of all within my borders, even a rogue." He will be treated, and then he will answer for his presence here. His gaze, however, lingered on the young male, a silent warning that demanded obedience. Then he turned to me, his golden eyes intense, demanding. "Lyra," he stated, his voice lower now, but firm. "The pack has questions, and they deserve answers. The truth will be told." My breath hitched. The moment had arrived. The moment I had dreaded since the bond snapped, since Kael had claimed me. I felt the weight of every eye in the lodge on me, 1,000 questions unspoken, 1,000 judgments silently rendered. My heart pounded, a frantic drumbeat in my ears. I could feel the baby stirring within me, a gentle flutter, a silent plea for protection. I straightened, taking a deep breath, and met Kael's unwavering gaze. His unwavering support, his absolute trust, even in the face of this volatile situation, gave me a fragile strength. I would tell them. I would lay bare the painful truth, not for my sake, but for the sake of the innocent life I carried, a life that deserved to be free from the shadows of my past. "My name is Lyra," I began, my voice trembling at first, but gaining strength with each word. And yes, I was bonded to Rhys. He was a beta from the Riverbend pack. I paused, my gaze sweeping over the faces of the pack, some curious, some hostile, some still unreadable. We met secretly, against the laws of our packs. He promised me a future, a life away from the constraints of tradition. He swore his love, his loyalty. A bitter, ironic laugh escaped my lips. I was foolish enough to believe him. I took another breath, forcing myself to continue, to lay bare the humiliation, the pain. He abandoned me, vanished without a trace, leaving me alone, vulnerable, leaving me with this. My hand went to my belly, a defiant gesture. I was cast out by my own family for breaking the rules, alone, pregnant, with no pack, no home. A murmur of sympathy rippled through some parts of the crowd, particularly from the older she-wolves. But others remained stone-faced, their judgment unwavering. Then the bond with Rhys snapped. I continued, my voice steady now, resolute. "And Kael found me. He claimed me as his mate. He accepted me, despite my past, despite my circumstances." I looked directly at Kael, my eyes filled with a profound gratitude, a silent plea for understanding. He knew about the child, and he still chose me. He offered me sanctuary, a home, a future for my child. My gaze then swept back to the pack, meeting their eyes with a newfound strength. "I understand your questions. I understand your concerns. My past is messy, complicated, but I have chosen to be here. I have chosen to be Kael's mate, and I will fight for my place in this pack. I will prove my loyalty, my worth, for Kael, for this pack, and for my child." My hand rested protectively on my belly. A silent declaration. This child is innocent. It deserves a home, a family. And it will be a moonstone, under the Alpha's protection. The lodge was silent, the pack's reaction unreadable. They absorbed my words, their minds undoubtedly weighing my confession against their deeply ingrained traditions. Kael, who had stood silently beside me, his presence a powerful anchor, now stepped forward, his hand resting on my shoulder, a gesture of unwavering support. "You have heard Lyra's truth." Kael's voice resonated through the lodge, firm and unyielding. "Her past is her own. Her future, and the future of her child, is with me, with us. Any further questions about her past are irrelevant. My decision is final. Lyra is my mate, and this child will be raised as a Moonstone, a part of this pack, protected by all of us. Is that understood? His golden eyes swept over the pack, a silent challenge, a demand for absolute obedience. A chorus of, "Yes, Alpha," resonated through the lodge, their voices more unified this time, the dissent stifled by his unwavering authority. The tension, though still present, had shifted. The truth was out. The past was laid bare. And now, the challenge was to navigate the turbulent waters of acceptance, to build a future for my child in a world that had once sought to cast me out. As I stood beside Kael, feeling the warmth of his hand on my shoulder, I knew this was just the beginning. The rogue lay wounded, a living testament to my past, and my future, though claimed by the Alpha, was still a fragile, uncertain path. The days following Rhys's arrival were a tense, delicate ballet between duty and emotion. He lay recuperating in the infirmary, his wound slowly mending under the careful ministrations of the Moonstone healers. Kael, true to his word, ensured Rhys received the best care, embodying the Alpha's responsibility to all within his territory, even former rivals. He visited the infirmary daily, his presence a silent reminder of his authority, his gaze unwavering when it rested on Rhys. There was no animosity, no overt aggression from Kael, but a powerful, controlled vigilance that spoke volumes. My own interactions with Rhys were strained, steeped in the bitter irony of our past. I visited him, compelled by a sense of responsibility for the child I carried, and by a lingering curiosity about the man who had so carelessly shattered my world. He was pale, his usually vibrant gray eyes clouded with pain and exhaustion, but the moment he saw me, a flicker of something unreadable crossed his face, a mixture of surprise, regret, and perhaps a touch of lingering possessiveness. "Lyra," he whispered, his voice raspy, still weak from his injuries. You're pregnant." His gaze dropped to my belly, a dawning realization in his eyes. He slowly reached out a hand, a hesitant gesture, as if seeking to touch me, to connect with the life he had abandoned. I recoiled instinctively, a sharp, visceral reaction. "Don't," I warned, my voice cold, devoid of the warmth that once held for him. "You lost that right, Rhys, a long time ago." My hand went to my belly, a protective shield. "This child, it is mine. And Kael's." A flicker of pain, then anger, crossed his face. "Kael?" he rasped, his voice rising in disbelief. "The Alpha of the Moonstone Pack? You mated with him? After what we had?" "What we had," I retorted, a bitter laugh escaping my lips, "was a lie, Rhys. A betrayal. You vanished. You abandoned me. You left me with nothing. Kael found me. He claimed me. He offered me and this child a home, a future, protection. Something you clearly couldn't." The words, though harsh, were true, cutting through the lingering illusions of our past. Rhys averted his gaze, a flush of shame creeping up his neck. I had no choice, Lyra. My pack, they found out. They threatened me, threatened you. They would have killed us both." His voice was low, filled with a desperate plea for understanding. "I ran to protect you, to protect our child." I stared at him, a sudden, cold cynicism rising within me. Was it true? Or was it just another excuse, another manipulation from the man who had broken my heart? The truth, however, felt less important than the present reality. He had left. Kael had stayed. "Your choices led you here, Rhys," I stated, my voice firm. "And my choices led me to Kael. The past is done. This child, I repeated, my hand once again on my belly, is a moonstone. It will know only this pack, this home. And Kael is its alpha, its protector. His eyes, filled with a complex mixture of regret and simmering resentment, met mine. You're wrong, Lyra. A bond like ours, it doesn't just disappear. Not truly. And a child, it belongs to its blood. I shook my head, my gaze unwavering. The bond snapped, Rhys. And blood means nothing without loyalty, without honor, without presence. I turned and left the infirmary, leaving him with his words and his lingering pain. The emotional toll of these encounters, combined with the physical demands of my advancing pregnancy, began to take a toll. My nights were restless, filled with fragmented dreams of the past, of Rhys's whispers and Kael's unwavering gaze. My days were a constant battle against fatigue and a subtle, nagging pain that persisted in my lower back. One evening, as I sat by the fire, struggling to find a comfortable position, Kael joined me. He sat silently for a moment, his hand resting on my knee, his touch warm and reassuring. "You are troubled," he observed, his voice a low rumble, his golden eyes filled with concern. "His presence here it weighs on you." I sighed, leaning my head against the cool stone of the fireplace. "It does. He stirs up things, old wounds." And his words, they sow doubt. "Not about you, Kael," I quickly clarified, looking at him, "but about my choices. About the future." Kael's gaze was intense, unwavering. "His words are of a past that no longer exists, Lyra. He made his choice. You made yours, and I made mine. There is no turning back. This child." His hand moved from my knee to my belly, a possessive, comforting gesture, "is a part of our future. And nothing will change that." His conviction was a powerful anchor in my emotional storm. "But the pack," I whispered, my voice tinged with lingering worry. "They see him. They remember. It fuels their doubts, their resentment." Kael's jaw tightened. "Their doubts will be extinguished," he stated, his voice firm, leaving no room for argument. "My pack will understand. They will see the truth. And if they do not, they will be made to." There was a chilling undercurrent to his voice, a hint of the absolute authority he wielded, a reminder that while he was compassionate, he was also an alpha, and his rule was absolute. The next morning, the lodge buzzed with an unusual air of anticipation. Kael had called a pack meeting, a rare occurrence outside of official pack business or a declaration of war. Every pack member was present, their faces a mixture of curiosity and apprehension. Rhys, still weak but able to walk, was brought into the main hall by two silent guards, his presence causing a ripple of whispers. Kael stood at the head of the hall, his imposing figure commanding immediate silence. His golden eyes swept over the assembled pack, then rested on Rhys, who stood sullenly, his gaze fixed on the floor. "Rhys, of the Riverbend Pack." Kael's voice boomed, clear and resonant, filling the lodge. "You have been treated. You have recovered. Now, you will answer. Why are you on Moonstone territory? And why did you abandon your mate, Lyra?" Rhys flinched, his head snapping up, his gray eyes meeting Kael's. He recounted his story, the forced abandonment, the threats from his own pack. He spoke of being hunted, of barely escaping with his life. His voice, though still tinged with self-pity, carried a ring of truth that silenced some of the lingering doubts about my past. But Kael wasn't finished. "And what of the child, Rhys?" he asked, his voice low, piercing. "The child you abandoned. Do you still claim it?" Rhys's gaze flickered to me, then to my belly, a complex mixture of fear and proprietary interest in his eyes. "It is my blood," he rasped, his voice gaining a desperate edge. "It is my son or daughter. It belongs with me, with its true father." A collective gasp rippled through the pack. The direct challenge to Kael's claim, to the future he had declared, was audacious, almost suicidal. Kael's golden eyes blazed, a raw, primal fury radiating from him. He took a slow, deliberate step towards Rhys, his towering presence engulfing him. The air grew heavy, charged with his simmering rage. "You had your chance, Rhys." Kael's voice was a low snarl, barely controlled. "You abandoned that chance. You cast aside your bond, your responsibility. You left her to suffer. This child," his gaze swept to me, then back to Rhys, filled with an unwavering possessiveness, "is mine. It is a moonstone, and it will know no other father. You lost that right when you turned your back on Lyra." He paused, then delivered the final, crushing blow. "You will be escorted to the border. You will never set foot on Moonstone territory again. And if you ever attempt to contact Lyra or lay claim to this child, I will hunt you down, and I will show you no mercy. Is that understood?" Rhys, pale and trembling, simply nodded, his eyes wide with fear, his spirit broken by the Alpha's absolute authority. He was led away, a beaten, defeated figure, his past and his claims firmly extinguished. Kael turned to his pack, his golden eyes sweeping over them, a powerful, unwavering declaration in their depths. "The past is laid to rest. Lyra is my mate. This child is a moonstone, and our future begins now. Is that understood?" A resounding chorus of "Yes, Alpha!" echoed through the lodge, their voices strong, unified, their doubts finally dispelled by Kael's unwavering conviction and his absolute defense of me and my child. I felt a profound sense of relief, a loosening of the tight knot in my chest. The whispers had been silenced, the past banished, and for the first time, truly, I felt a part of the Moonstone Pack. Not just as the Alpha's mate, but as Lyra, a woman with a future, and a child, safe within the embrace of their fierce loyalty. The next chapter of our lives, free from the lingering shadow of Rhys, had truly begun. With Rhys banished and the Pack's collective doubts seemingly quelled, a fragile sense of peace settled over me, like the first snowfall after a long, turbulent storm. The tension that had coiled in my stomach for weeks began to unravel, allowing me to breathe more deeply, to move with less apprehension. The lingering glances from Pack members were now tinged with a nascent acceptance, a quiet curiosity that lacked the sharp edge of judgment. My public confession and Kael's unwavering defense had, against all odds, cemented my place, not just as his mate, but as a future member of the Moonstone family. My pregnancy continued its relentless progress, my belly growing larger, a round, undeniable testament to the approaching birth. The baby's movements, once gentle flutters, were now energetic kicks and discernible shifts, a constant, joyful reminder of the life thriving within me. I spent hours simply resting my hands on my swollen abdomen, feeling the intricate dance of life, imagining the tiny face, the small hands that would soon grasp mine. Kael, now less preoccupied with the immediate threat of Rhys, devoted more of his time to me. He would often come to my room in the evenings, bringing me cups of warm herbal tea prepared by the healers, or reading to me from ancient Pack scrolls, his deep voice a soothing balm. He spoke of the Pack's history with a quiet reverence, of their ancestors, their struggles, their triumphs. Through these stories, I gained a deeper understanding of the Moonstone heritage, a richer appreciation for the bonds that tied this community together. He never pried, never pushed, but simply offered his presence, his comfort, his quiet strength. He spoke of the future, not just his and mine, but of our child's, always including the baby in his plans, his words laced with a protective tenderness that melted away my lingering insecurities. Anya remained my unwavering confidant, her calm demeanor a steady anchor in my emotional landscape. She taught me about the pack's traditions surrounding childbirth, the sacred rituals, the importance of the she-wolf sisterhood during this profound journey. She introduced me to more of the older women, the matriarchs who held the collective wisdom of generations. They shared their own birth stories, offered advice, and enveloped me in a warmth of acceptance that felt profoundly healing. They brought me comfort foods, knitted tiny blankets, and sang ancient lullabies, their voices soft and comforting, painting a picture of a welcoming, loving community ready to embrace the new life. One afternoon, as I was helping Anya prepare a new batch of medicinal salves, a faint tremor ran through the ground, followed by a distant, muffled roar. It wasn't the sound of an animal, but something far more unsettling, something that resonated with a destructive power. The air grew heavy, tinged with a faint, acrid scent. Anya, her hands still, her gray eyes narrowed, instantly sensed the anomaly. Her gaze met mine, a silent question passing between us. Then, a frantic howl pierced the air, closer this time, filled with a raw, desperate fear. It was a Moonstone patrol, their distress call reverberating through the valley. Kael, who had been in his office, burst into the main lodge, his golden eyes blazing with alarm. His powerful form was already tensed, his senses extended, straining to decipher the source of the disturbance. "What is it, Alpha?" Anya asked, her voice calm despite the rising tension. "Rogue presence," Kael growled, his voice a low rumble, tinged with disbelief. "But not like any I've encountered. Too strong, too many, and something else, something unnatural." He raced towards the lodge entrance, his command already forming in his mind. A second howl, louder, closer, followed by the distant sound of trees crashing, of splintering wood, sent a wave of chilling dread through the lodge. The scent of ozone, a sharp, metallic smell, was now distinct, mingled with the potent aroma of unfamiliar wolves, and something else, something deeply unsettling, like scorched earth and primal rage. "It's a full-scale assault," Kael roared, his voice resonating with a primal fury. "Secure the lodge, protect the young and the vulnerable. Anya, gather the warriors. We face an enemy." His command was absolute, electrifying, snapping the pack into immediate, disciplined action. Panic, though controlled, rippled through the lodge. Mothers clutched their children, younger wolves huddled together, their eyes wide with fear. The scent of fear, mingled with the acrid smell of burning, was now strong in the air. I felt a sudden, sharp pain in my lower abdomen, a blinding spasm that made me gasp. My hand went to my belly, a fierce protectiveness surging through me. The baby kicked, a frantic, desperate flutter, as if sensing the danger. Kael, hearing my gasp, spun, his golden eyes instantly finding me. His expression was a mask of grim concern, his duty as alpha warring with his possessive protectiveness. "Lyra," he barked, moving towards me, his hand reaching out. But a powerful tremor rocked the lodge, shaking the very foundations. A section of the wall near the infirmary splintered inwards, sending debris flying, and through the gaping hole, a monstrous figure lunged. It was a wolf, but unlike any I had ever seen. It was unnaturally large, its fur matted and scarred, its eyes glowing with a malevolent, unnatural red light. It moved with a horrifying speed, its jaws distended, dripping with foam, its presence radiating pure, unadulterated rage. It was not a wolf, but a creature of nightmare, a corrupted beast driven by a chilling, unnatural power. Its scent was overpowering, a nauseating mix of ozone, decay, and something else, something dark and ancient that sickened me to my core. This was not Rhys's pack. This was something far more sinister. Kael let out a primal snarl, his golden eyes blazing with fury. He shifted instantly, transforming into his magnificent golden wolf form, a blur of raw power, launching himself at the monstrous creature. The clash was brutal, a terrifying collision of two formidable forces. Roars and snarls echoed through the lodge, splintering wood and shattering stone. I stood frozen, paralyzed by the sheer terror of the unfolding battle, my hand pressed firmly against my belly, shielding my child. The baby kicked violently, as if in protest, as if trying to escape the encroaching darkness. And then, a searing pain, sharper than anything I had felt before, ripped through my abdomen. A warm, wet sensation spread between my legs. My vision blurred, and the world began to spin. Anya, who had been orchestrating the defense, saw my distress. Her eyes widened, a look of profound alarm crossing her face. "Lyra!" she cried, rushing towards me, her voice laced with desperate urgency. "The baby! She's bleeding!" My legs buckled. I felt myself falling, the chaos of the battle fading into a distant roar. The last thing I saw before darkness consumed me was Kael, his golden wolf form locked in a brutal struggle with the monstrous creature, his eyes, even in the midst of battle, still filled with a desperate, protective teamer. Concern for me. The Alpha had chosen me, and now my child, caught between two worlds, was fighting for its very life, as the Moonstone Pack fought for its survival against an unknown, terrifying enemy. The next chapter, shrouded in pain and uncertainty, had begun. Darkness. A profound, suffocating darkness, broken only by flashes of searing pain. I floated in a void, disconnected from my body, yet acutely aware of the agonizing contractions that ripped through me, relentless and brutal. Voices, muffled and indistinct, drifted in and out of the blackness, laced with urgency, with fear. I heard Anya's voice, clear and strong, cutting through the haze, giving commands. I heard Kael's deep growl, a guttural sound of primal fury and desperate concern. And then, the faint, high-pitched cry of my child, barely a whisper, a sound that pierced through the veil of pain and pulled me back, inexorably, towards the light. I gasped, my eyes fluttering open, struggling to focus. The world swam into view, a blur of faces, then slowly, resolving into the familiar, comforting confines of the infirmary. The air was thick with the scent of medicinal herbs, of sweat, and something else, something sweet and pure, a scent that stirred a deep primal instinct within me. Anya hovered over me, her face etched with exhaustion but her gray eyes filled with a profound relief. The pack healers, their expressions grim but their hands gentle, moved around me with a quiet efficiency. "Lyra," Anya whispered, her voice rough with emotion. "You're awake, thank the moon goddess." My gaze darted around, searching, desperate. "The baby," I rasped, my throat raw, my voice barely a whisper. "Is the baby?" Anya's lips curved into a soft, weary smile. She reached out, her hand gently guiding mine to my chest. And there, nestled against me, a tiny, fragile bundle, wrapped in a soft, knitted blanket. My child. My breath hitched. I looked down, my eyes blurry with tears, at the tiny face, impossibly small, impossibly perfect. A shock of dark hair, the color of Kael's, peeked from beneath the blanket. Tiny, wrinkled fingers, perfect in their miniature form, grasped at the air. And then, it opened its eyes. They were wide, unfocused, but even in their newborn state, I saw it. The unmistakable gleam of molten gold. Kael's eyes. My heart swelled with an overwhelming rush of love, a fierce, primal protectiveness that eclipsed all pain, all fear, all past betrayals. "A boy," Anya whispered, her voice choked with emotion. "Strong, resilient, just like his mother. He fought hard, Lyra. Both of you did. A boy. My son." And with Kael's golden eyes, the undeniable, visible proof of the bond that now inextricably linked us, a tangible symbol of a future I had never dared to dream of. "Kael?" I whispered, my gaze sweeping the room, suddenly aware of the lingering scent of battle, the tension that still hummed beneath the surface. Anya's expression clouded slightly. "He's still out there, fighting. The attack, it was relentless, unprecedented. But he would not leave until he knew you and the baby were safe." Her voice was filled with a profound respect for Kael's unwavering devotion. As if summoned by her words, the distant roar of battle intensified, followed by a powerful, earth-shattering howl. It was Kael's battle howl, a sound that spoke of raw fury, of unyielding power, a declaration of dominance that vibrated through the very foundations of the lodge. And then, a series of triumphant howls from the pack, echoing his, signaling victory. A collective sigh of relief swept through the infirmary. The healers, their faces etched with exhaustion, exchanged relieved glances. The battle was over. The Moonstone Pack had survived. Moments later, the doors to the infirmary burst open, and Kael strode in, his magnificent golden wolf form shifting back into human guise. He was covered in blood, not his own, his powerful frame bruised and weary, but his golden eyes burned with an incandescent triumph. He paused, scanning the room, his gaze sweeping over the healers, then Anya, until they finally landed on me, on the tiny bundle cradled in my arms. His eyes, initially filled with the raw fury of battle, softened, transformed by an overwhelming surge of emotion. He took a hesitant step, then another, drawn by an invisible thread, until he stood beside my cot, his powerful body trembling slightly with exhaustion and profound relief. He looked at our son, his golden eyes mirroring the awe and wonder in my own. He reached out, his large, calloused finger tracing the delicate curve of our baby's cheek. And then, his gaze met mine, tears glistening in his golden eyes, a vulnerability I had never seen before. "Our son," he rumbled, his voice thick with emotion, barely a whisper. "He has your hair, and my eyes." There was an undeniable pride in his voice, a possessive tenderness that warmed me from the inside out. He leaned down, gently placing a kiss on my forehead, then on the soft, downy hair of our newborn son. "He is beautiful, Lyra," he whispered, his voice choked with emotion. "Thank you. Thank you for him. Thank you for everything." His words, simple yet profound, melted away all my lingering fears, all my past anxieties. The Alpha, who had chosen me despite my past, now looked at our son, the child I carried from another, and claimed him as his own, with a love and devotion that transcended blood. Anya, standing silently by, wiped a tear from her own eye, a rare display of emotion from the stoic beta. The pack healers offered gentle smiles, their faces reflecting the profound joy and relief that filled the infirmary. The pack, the very people who had once questioned my place, my worth, now stood outside the infirmary, their murmurs soft, their eyes filled with a mixture of curiosity and dawning acceptance. They had witnessed the Alpha's unwavering devotion, his fierce protection of his mate and his child. They had witnessed the birth of a new life, a symbol of their future, a living testament to the Alpha's choice. As I held my son, his tiny hand grasping my finger with surprising strength, I knew, with a certainty that settled deep in my bones, that my journey had truly come full circle. I was no longer just Lyra, the outcast, the one carrying another's child. I was Lyra, the Alpha's mate, the mother of his son, a fiercely protective warrior in my own right. My child, caught between two worlds, had found his true home, his true family, in the fiercely loyal embrace of the Moonstone Pack. The past was behind me, a faint, distant echo. The future, though still challenging, now shone bright with the promise of love, acceptance, and an unwavering strength born of an Alpha's undeniable choice. The weeks that followed were a whirlwind of joyous exhaustion and profound transformation. My son, whom we named Caleb, a name meaning wholehearted or faithful, thrived under the watchful eyes of the entire Moonstone Pack. He was a beacon of light, a tangible manifestation of Kael's unwavering acceptance, and his golden eyes, so strikingly like his father's, served as a constant reminder of the profound bond that now tied me to the Alpha. My recovery was swift, aided by the tireless ministrations of the pack healers and the nourishing care of Anya and the other she-wolves. The lingering aches faded, replaced by a newfound strength, a resilience born of surviving the impossible. Motherhood, with its demands and its unparalleled joys, consumed me, anchoring me firmly in the present, pulling me away from the lingering shadows of my past. I spent countless hours simply holding Caleb, inhaling his sweet, innocent scent, marveling at his tiny perfection. His coos and gurgles, his sleepy sighs, filled the lodge with a lightness that had been absent before. Kael was a devoted father. Despite his immense responsibilities as Alpha, he made time for Caleb, his imposing presence transforming into one of gentle tenderness whenever he held our son. He would sit for hours, Caleb cradled in his strong arms, his golden eyes gazing down at the tiny bundle with a look of pure, unadulterated adoration. He spoke to Caleb in a low, rumbling voice, telling him stories of the forest, of the pack's history, of the adventures that awaited him. He would help me with night feedings, his large hands surprisingly deft as he changed diapers or soothed Caleb's cries. His unwavering love for our son, the child he had chosen to claim, was a constant source of comfort and validation for me, silencing any lingering whispers of doubt from within the pack. And the pack, finally, fully embraced me. Caleb's birth, particularly his striking golden eyes, served as the ultimate proof of Kael's absolute claim, a visual testament to their fated bond. The initial skepticism and resentment had melted away, replaced by a genuine warmth and acceptance. The younger females who had once regarded me with disdain now sought me out, offering help, sharing stories, their previous hostility replaced by a newfound curiosity and respect. The older matriarchs, who had observed me with sympathetic glances, now embraced me fully, sharing their wisdom, their laughter, and their profound love for the newest member of their family. I was no longer just the Alpha's mate. I was a mother, a part of their sisterhood, a living embodiment of the pack's resilience and its capacity for unconditional love. The lodge, which had once felt like a gilded cage, now truly felt like home. A vibrant, bustling sanctuary filled with love and laughter. Anya, who had been my steadfast guide and confidant, observed this transformation with a quiet satisfaction. Her initial stoicism had softened, revealing a profound warmth and affection. She spent hours with Caleb, her normally serious face breaking into soft smiles as she tickled his tiny feet or sang him ancient lullabies. She had become an honorary aunt, her deep loyalty to Kael extending to his mate and his child, a bond forged in the crucible of my difficult past and the joy of Caleb's arrival. Amidst this newfound peace, however, lay the lingering shadow of the creature that had attacked the lodge, the unnatural, corrupted wolf that Kael had fought. The pack had managed to drive it back, but its presence, its sheer monstrousness, had left an unsettling mark. Kael, though outwardly focused on his newfound fatherhood, spent countless hours in deep discussion with Anya and his lead warriors, analyzing the attack, studying the strange wounds left by the creature, searching for answers. He spoke of its unnatural strength, its malevolent intelligence, its chilling aura of corruption. He knew this wasn't a rogue wolf, but something far more dangerous, something that threatened the very balance of nature. One evening, after Caleb had finally settled for the night, I found Kael in his office, poring over ancient texts and maps, his brow furrowed in concentration. The tension in the air was palpable, a stark contrast to the domestic bliss that usually filled our evenings. "Still searching for answers?" I asked softly, stepping into the room, a cup of warm herbal tea in my hands. He looked up, his golden eyes weary but still burning with an unyielding resolve. The creature, it was unlike anything I have ever encountered. Lyra. It wasn't just a wolf, it was corrupted, twisted by something dark, and it left traces, a scent of something ancient, something malevolent, and a faint, almost imperceptible scent of something familiar. His voice was low, filled with a grim uncertainty. "Familiar?" I echoed, my blood running cold. The memory of Rhys's scent, mingled with the ozone and decay, flashed through my mind. Kael nodded, his gaze distant, lost in thought. "A faint echo of a scent I know. From the Riverbend pack." His golden eyes snapped to mine, filled with a dawning, terrible realization. Rhys. He said his pack threatened him, hunted him. What if they weren't just threatening him for abandoning you? What if they were experimenting? What if they created that thing? My breath hitched. The possibility was horrifying, a chilling twist to the betrayal I had already suffered. Rhys's pack, the Riverbend pack, had always been secretive, known for their strict adherence to tradition, their isolation from other territories. But to be involved in something so monstrous, so unnatural, the thought sent a shiver down my spine. "If they created that creature," I whispered, my voice trembling, "then they pose a far greater threat than we imagined. They wouldn't just be a danger to us, but to all packs, to the very balance of the supernatural world." Kael's jaw tightened, his expression grim. "Precisely. This is no longer just about pack borders, Lyra. This is about protecting our kind, protecting Caleb. And if Rhys's pack is involved in something like this, then we need to know the full extent of their depravity. We need to stop them, before they unleash more of these abominations." He stood, his powerful form radiating a renewed sense of purpose, of grim determination. "I need to send a reconnaissance team. Anya, they will gather intelligence, confirm my suspicions, And then, his golden eyes blazed with a fierce resolve. "We will confront them, the Riverbend Pack, and whatever dark force they have unleashed." I watched him, a quiet strength settling within me. My life had been irrevocably altered, my past consumed by betrayal, my future forged in an alpha's unwavering love. Now, my path was clear. I was Lyra, Alpha's mate, mother of his son, and a warrior in my own right. The peace we had found was a precious commodity, one that needed to be fiercely protected. And if that meant facing the demons of my past, the architects of corruption, then I would do so, not just for Kael or for Caleb, but for the very future of our world. The war, a chilling new chapter, had just begun. The weeks that followed were charged with an undercurrent of grim anticipation. The tranquil rhythm of pack life, once a balm to my soul, now felt like the calm before a devastating storm. Kael, driven by a fierce determination to protect his pack and the fragile peace we had found, dedicated himself to preparing for the inevitable confrontation with the Riverbend Pack. His days were spent poring over maps, strategizing with Anya and Captain Lyra, and rigorously training his warriors. The training grounds buzzed with an intensity I hadn't witnessed before, the air thick with the scent of sweat, discipline, and a quiet, steely resolve. Anya, with her unwavering loyalty and tactical brilliance, was Kael's constant shadow, his sounding board, and his most trusted advisor. She moved with a quiet efficiency, her gray eyes sharp and discerning, overseeing every aspect of the pack's preparation. Captain Lyra, with his quiet competence and exceptional tracking skills, led small, covert reconnaissance teams to the borders of the Riverbend territory, gathering crucial intelligence. His reports were chilling: increased patrols, strange energy signatures, and the faint, unsettling scent of unnatural creatures, confirming Kael's worst fears. Meanwhile, Dr. Thorne, working tirelessly in his secure digital hub, delved into the digital footprint of the Riverbend Pack, searching for anomalies, for hidden communications, for anything that might shed light on their involvement with the corrupted creatures. His screens glowed with intricate lines of code, a silent battlefield where he fought against powerful encryptions, trying to unravel the web of deceit. He discovered whispers of ancient, forbidden rituals, of dark magic, of a desperate attempt to gain power through unnatural means. The Riverbend Pack, once known for their staunch traditionalism, seemed to have strayed into a dangerous, forbidden path. My own role shifted. While Kael insisted on my safety, urging me to focus on Caleb, I couldn't stand idly by. My experiences, my intimate knowledge of Rhys and his pack, suddenly became an invaluable asset. I spent hours with Kael, recalling every detail I could remember about the Riverbend Pack, their customs, their leaders, their subtle rivalries, their hidden paths through the forests, the locations of old abandoned structures that might serve as covert bases. My memories, once painful echoes of betrayal, were now crucial pieces of a terrifying puzzle. Kael listened intently, his golden eyes absorbing every detail, his mind already formulating strategies, anticipating their moves. He treated my insights with profound respect, acknowledging their value, valuing my contribution beyond simply being his mate and the mother of his child. This partnership, forged in the crucible of impending conflict, deepened our bond in ways I hadn't imagined. Despite the looming threat, Caleb remained a source of profound joy and comfort. His small, innocent presence filled the lodge with light, a constant reminder of what we were fighting for. Kael would often come to me in the evenings, his face weary from the day's preparations, and spend precious moments cradling Caleb, his raw power tempered by an overwhelming tenderness. He would whisper promises to our son, promises of a safe, peaceful future, a future he was willing to fight for with every fiber of his being. One cold, clear evening, as the moon hung like a silver disk in the inky sky, Kael called a final pack meeting. The tension in the main lodge was palpable, a quiet hum of suppressed energy. Every pack member was present, their faces grim, ready for whatever news their alpha would deliver. Kael stood before them, his presence commanding immediate silence. His golden eyes swept over each face, a silent acknowledgement of their courage, their loyalty. Anya and Captain Lyra stood at his side, their expressions resolute. "Pack," Kael's voice resonated through the lodge, clear and strong, carrying the weight of his resolve. "We face a grave threat. The creatures that attacked our lodge, the corrupt abominations, they are not random rogues. They are a product of the Riverbend Pack magic in forbidden rituals, seeking power through unnatural means. They seek to destabilize our world, to spread chaos, to expand their twisted influence. And they will not stop until they are met with force." A ripple of angry murmurs spread through the pack. The betrayal, the desecration of their traditions, the sheer audacity of the Riverbend Pack fueled a simmering rage. "We have gathered intelligence," Kael continued, his voice firm. "We know their strengths and their weaknesses. They are driven by a hunger for power, a thirst for destruction. But they are vulnerable, and we will exploit those vulnerabilities." He unfolded a map on the table before him, illuminated by the flickering firelight. Captain Lyra's reconnaissance teams have identified their primary stronghold, an old, abandoned mine complex deep within their territory. It is from there that they are cultivating these creatures, harnessing this dark Crockshire power. That is our target. He looked at his warriors, his golden eyes burning with a fierce resolve. "We will launch a preemptive strike, a surgical operation. We will infiltrate their stronghold, disable their corrupted creations, and dismantle their dark network. We will show them that their forbidden path leads only to destruction. We will protect our lands. We will protect our families. We will protect our future." He paused, then his gaze swept over every member of the pack, from the fiercest warriors to the oldest matriarchs. "This will not be an easy fight. But we are the Moonstone Pack. We are bound by loyalty, by strength, by the sacred laws of our kind. And we will stand together. We will fight as one, and we will prevail." A powerful, unified roar erupted from the pack, a primal sound of defiance, of unwavering loyalty, of absolute readiness. Their eyes, blazing with conviction, reflected Kael's own unwavering resolve. I felt a surge of pride, a fierce sense of belonging, witnessing their unity, their courage. Kael then turned to me, his golden eyes softening, a fleeting moment of profound connection amidst the impending storm. "Stay safe, Lyra," he rumbled, his voice a low whisper, meant for my ears alone. "Protect Caleb. You are our future." He placed a gentle hand on my cheek, then turned back to his pack, his expression grim, his focus absolute. As the warriors prepared, their movements efficient, their faces set with determination, I held Caleb close, his small warm body a profound comfort. My heart ached with a mixture of fear and pride. Kael was walking into danger, into a confrontation with a powerful, unnatural enemy. But he was fighting for our family, for our home, for the very essence of our future. And I, Lyra, the outcast who had found her place, would wait, and I would fight in my own way, protecting the most precious part of our future, our son, with every fiber of my being. The war had officially begun, and the Moonstone Pack stood ready, united against the encroaching darkness. The air in the Moonstone Lodge was thick with a palpable tension, a heavy silence punctuated only by the occasional nervous sigh or the rustle of clothing. The warriors had departed under the cloak of pre-dawn darkness, their grim faces illuminated by the faint glow of the rising moon. Kael, Anya, Captain Ly, and Dr. Thorne, along with the most skilled fighters, had ventured into the heart of the Riverbend territory, into the perilous unknown. They were facing an enemy twisted by dark magic, an enemy that threatened not just their lives, but the very essence of their kind. I paced the main hall, my heart a relentless drumbeat against my ribs. Caleb, sensing the shift in the atmosphere, was restless in my arms, whimpering softly, his tiny hands reaching for my face. I held him close, rocking him gently, trying to project a calmness I didn't feel. The absence of Kael, his powerful, reassuring presence, left a gaping void, a vulnerability I hadn't truly felt since I'd been cast out. The pack members who remained were a mixture of elders, younger wolves, and those designated to protect the homestead. Their faces were etched with worry, their senses strained, listening for any sign, any distant echo of the battle that was surely raging. The scent of fear, though suppressed, was a faint, unsettling tang in the air. Hours stretched into an agonizing eternity. Every shadow seemed to hold a threat, every distant rustle of leaves amplified into a potential danger. My mind raced, replaying Kael's grim words about the corrupted creatures, about the forbidden rituals. The image of the monstrous wolf, its eyes glowing with malevolent red light, haunted my thoughts. I pressed a kiss to Caleb's soft head, a silent prayer for his father's safe return. Anya had left clear instructions for the pack's defense, and the remaining warriors were strategically positioned, their senses extended, their weapons ready. The lodge, usually a bustling hub of life, was now a fortress, a silent vigil against an unseen enemy. Suddenly, a piercing howl, raw with pain, echoed through the forest. It was a moonstone howl, but one of anguish, of loss. My heart leaped into my throat. Caleb stiffened in my arms, a tiny sob escaping his lips. A collective gasp rippled through the lodge, followed by a surge of fear. "A moonstone warrior," an elder wolf whispered, his face pale. "Injured, or worse." The waiting became unbearable. My imagination conjured terrifying scenarios, each one more brutal than the last. Had Kael been injured? Had Anya fallen? Had their mission failed? The uncertainty was a torment, far worse than any physical pain. Then, a different howl, a powerful, triumphant roar, cut through the tension. It was Kael's howl, strong and clear, resonating with an undeniable victory. It was echoed by a chorus of exhilarated howls from his pack, a cacophony of relief and celebration that washed over the lodge like a wave. Tears sprang to my eyes, a rush of profound relief washing over me, leaving me weak with exhaustion. Caleb, sensing the shift in my emotions, began to gurgle, his small face brightening. Moments later, the pack warriors began to emerge from the tree line, their bodies bruised and weary, but their faces alight with triumph. They moved with a renewed sense of purpose, their shoulders held high. The scent of fresh blood, mingled with the acrid stench of something unnatural, was strong. But beneath it, the unmistakable scent of victory. Anya was among the first, her silver hair disheveled, a faint smear of dirt on her cheek, but her gray eyes gleaming with a fierce satisfaction. She met my gaze, a rare, tired smile gracing her lips, and gave me a subtle nod, a silent assurance that all was well. And then, Kael. He emerged last, his human form bruised and weary, but his golden eyes burning with an incandescent triumph. He was covered in mud and the dried blood of battle, but his presence was as imposing, as powerful as ever. He walked with a slight limp, but his stride was resolute, unwavering. His gaze found me immediately, a silent conversation passing between us. He walked directly to me, ignoring the cheers and congratulatory slaps on the back from his warriors. He reached out, his large, calloused hand gently cupping my cheek, his thumb brushing away a tear I hadn't realized was falling. "It's over, Lyra," he rumbled, his voice rough with exhaustion but laced with a profound relief. "The stronghold is neutralized, their experiments extinguished, the corrupted creatures dealt with. The Riverbend Pack has been humbled. They will not threaten us again." He then looked at Caleb, who, sensing his father's return, reached out his tiny hands, a joyous gurgle escaping his lips. Kael's tired face softened, his eyes filling with an overwhelming tenderness. He gently took Caleb from my arms, cradling our son against his powerful chest, inhaling his sweet, innocent scent. "Oh, son," he whispered, his voice thick with emotion. "He is safe. We are all safe." He then looked up, his gaze sweeping over his pack, his golden eyes burning with pride and gratitude. "You fought bravely, my pack," he announced, his voice resonating with power. "You faced a darkness unlike any before, and you prevailed. This victory it is for all of us, for our future, for the balance we protect." A resounding cheer erupted from the pack, their exhaustion momentarily forgotten in the celebratory roar. The relief in the lodge was palpable, a collective sigh of freedom and triumph. Later that evening, after the pack had feasted and celebrated, and the wounded had been tended to, Kael and I sat by the roaring fire, Caleb nestled peacefully between us. The lodge was quiet now, the lingering scent of battle slowly fading, replaced by the comforting warmth of home. "Rhys," I began, my voice soft, hesitant. "What of him? Was he involved in this?" Kael sighed, a weary but resolute sound. "He was there, Lyra," he admitted, his golden eyes distant, troubled. "He was a pawn, a minor player in their grand scheme. They exploited his desperation, his bitterness towards his own pack, towards me. He was trying to regain favor, to gain power, to reclaim what he believed was his." He paused, a grim humor touching his lips. "He was in awe of the creatures they created, believed they would make him powerful. He truly believed he would take back what he lost. He even believed he would reclaim you, and Caleb." My blood ran cold. The sheer audacity of his delusion, even after everything, was staggering. "What happened to him?" I asked, my voice barely a whisper. Kael's gaze met mine, unwavering. "He fled. In the chaos of the battle. He escaped. He won't return. His spirit is broken. He saw the true horror of what his pack was creating. He saw the power they wielded, and he saw his own insignificance in the face of it. He is no longer a threat. He is merely a ghost of the past, a cautionary tale." I nodded, a profound sense of closure settling over me. Rhys was truly gone, not just from my life, but from the narrative of my future. His chapter was definitively closed. Kael turned to me, his golden eyes filled with a tenderness that warmed me from the inside out. He reached out, his hand gently stroking my hair. "This fight," he murmured, his voice soft. "It confirmed something for me, Lyra. It confirmed that you are not just my mate, not just the mother of my son. You are a warrior. Your strength, your resilience, your quiet courage, it is an inspiration to us all. You belong here, truly." His words, spoken with such sincerity, brought tears to my eyes. The battle, the fear, the pain, it had all been worth it. I was no longer an outsider, no longer just the Alpha's chosen. I was Lyra, a Moonstone, a beloved member of this pack, a mother and a partner to the most formidable, most loving Alpha I had ever known. My past was a shadow, but my future, with Caleb and Kael, was a bright, undeniable beacon of hope. A future earned through courage, acceptance, and an unwavering love that transcended all boundaries. The Moonstone Pack was whole, healed, and ready for whatever the future might bring, their Alpha's choice, now undeniably, truly their own.